So I thought I reached the finish line. Instead, it was actually just a part of the next chapter. So I got the app buttoned up, finally got it to an iteration that I actually thought was helpful, was useful. It didn't have any glaring bugs. And I was like, oh, hey, Google Play, here's my app. And they were like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do some testing. And I finally got through some internal testing, and what that looked like was sending a whole bunch of emails to friends, text messages, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you download this, join this, do this, click this link? It was met with very limited success. The thing is, Google Play requires a closed testing cycle of 12 people consecutively for 14 days. Know that going in. You need 12 people opted in for 14 consecutive days to even be able to apply for production ready status for your application. That hit me like a punch in the face. Not to say because I don't have 12 friends, although, it's true. Cue the little Dwight Schrute, it's true meme. The idea, though, was that, a lot of my friends have Apple phones, or, just not going to reach out after not talking to somebody for a bit and be like, hey, install this faulty looking software. Anyway, long story short, I had to find other avenues to go through and garner testers. So I'm going to talk about that process today and kind of where it left me. The idea is I built TabFair, which is my little app that does bill splitting. And I've got screenshots of it. I have it on my website, littleusefulapps.com. May look a little bit different than what you're looking at now, but this is the website here. I have it on Google Play, right? It's not fully blown out to everybody as of yet, but just keep that in mind. One of the things that we had to do was work on getting testers. That's part of the overall process that you do in your developer account. I didn't have enough friends to go through and do it, so I had to go through a few different areas, and one of them was Reddit. I found Reddit to be hugely helpful in terms of being able to drive people to my app. I'm just bringing in some other stuff. Forgive the glazed look on my face. I'm just trying to get stuff done for you. But the idea is that you have the ability to look at a few different things. So there's Reddit, which is threads, because they have groups that are looking at, there's closed testing groups, there are Android testing groups, there are groups dedicated to the 12 testers, and it's people saying, hey, here's my link, join my group, join my app testing set of people I know or interact with, and in return I'll test yours. So I got a few, I'd probably say 5 or 6 testers that way, had a couple friends. I still was missing the mark, because the big thing to keep in mind is that people drop out. People need to be in it for 14 days consecutively. So if somebody goes in 7 days and then drops out, it doesn't count. So basically have at least another 3 or 4 testers. I would say, to be safe, probably be in the 25-ish range, just to ensure your best chances for success. The other thing that you can do outside from Reddit, which I'm not going to show you, but is that I found that there are a couple different apps that help testers. They're designed around testing. I am not being sponsored or compensated in any way by these. These are just 2 that I found. I am sure that there are multiple different versions of these types of tools. Some, I will say, are paid, which I did not do. I will not pay for testers because I feel like that's not the best approach for where I'm at. But Beta Circle was one of them, where you have to join their testing circle group so that you can download through them. But they have a list of different people that have their apps, and what you do is you earn gems by downloading and installing the different applications on their platform through them. Then as you gain a certain number of gems, you can list your application. So the idea is that you go through and you install what equates to be about 12 different, interesting number, 12 different applications, at which point on a daily basis, they have a little ticker and they have little boxes, and you either check in, as they call it, and you get credit for the day and you get rewarded a medal, or you miss the day and then you lose these medals. And if you go below a certain threshold of the medals, you actually get kicked off the platform. You get delisted and you get removed. So it makes you, for lack of a better term, test those applications. So it's nice from that standpoint. The downside to it is there isn't really easy ways to ensure that people are actively using your platform to garner feedback. It's just literally, did you launch the app through their button? The tracking of it, the day after day checklist, the ease of use, the fluidity of the UI, very nice platform. Highly recommend it. The other one that I used was AppHive. And this, again, is a closed testing tool. It works very similarly. However, they have what's called hives. And hives are made up of 14 people. And you have to apply into a hive after you have a certain number of gems. We'll call it gems. I can't remember what they call it. Points, maybe. And you get the points the same way, right? You start with a certain number that you can get into. And then what you do is basically you're in a group of 14 and you have to install all the other applications. So you have to install 13 different applications. And then again, it's a daily, you have to open up the application. They have a time limit though. You have to, you can't continue or get credit under 15 seconds. You also have to apply a screenshot and submit it. And you also have the ability to submit feedback. So their whole process is that, hey, not only do you have to open the app, you have to show proof. And there's actually a rebuttal system. And I was part of a community judgment where if somebody put a screenshot from a different app or something along those lines, you can contest it. And so I looked through the evidence, as they call it, and I said, nope, this is not okay. And as a thing to that, you get rewarded with some gems. So you can also reward for feedback if you want to, and you can approve or deny people's feedback. This is where I actually got a bunch of feedback. I got more feedback through this application than anybody else. I get a couple pieces from feedback on Reddit sending me direct, and then I had a whole bunch from this particular app. Well, a whole bunch is a bit of a misnomer. I got some feedback. And that, to me, is really the basis of why Google Play does this, right? It makes you test out your application to more than just you and your bestie. It allows you to really get that out, and people will click on things that they just stumble across, but you may never have actually gone there. Like I had somebody say the rupee symbol is too close to what you have. I wouldn't have found that out. I wouldn't have tested it that thoroughly. I will admit that. Going forward, yeah, I'll probably be doing that. And then somebody else, one of their pieces of feedback was, hey, if you have 8 people in your party and you're trying to split 5 cents, like you shouldn't be able to do that. Somebody else showed me that you can actually at one point add letters. You could do negative numbers. You can't have a negative bill, right? So pieces like that were crucial for me to actually develop something that people could actually use and not break. I think one of the things to keep in mind is that the likelihood of someone putting in negative, it probably not really there. But I ended up meeting 2 cool people on Reddit from this experience, and we still chat, and they both got published. They got approved for production, which is pretty cool, and I celebrated with them. But yeah, I mean, after I started getting through that, again, anytime I had issues or feedback, I would go right to Lovable. And it really came down to whether or not changes would make the application better or fix something that's broken and should be working that isn't, or is it adding unnecessarily complexity? So very similar to why I decided what went paid versus what wasn't paid, why I went with no ads. I didn't want unnecessary complexity entered into the app because all that's going to do is break things. So I had to make that decision. One piece of feedback I did get was someone from France said, well, they have multiple different types of VAT or VAT taxes. Can you add in more lines? And that to me is a future state. It's wonderful feedback. It's just I'm not at that point in growth where I have to worry about the French market having to calculate their own tax into one field as opposed to 3 separate VAT tax lines. So again, future state, how to make the determination, is this something that I need to address right now, or is this something I can just kind of push down the line? So I'll call it a technical debt or a backlog. I finally have a backlog and feature request, right? Submit your feature request. But the idea is that all the other pieces I went through and I added, right? Like, can we do an about section? Can we do an auto update? Can we do a split leftover taxing? A lot of these were me, but some of this, like the auto decimal, it used to be that you have to hit the numbers, then hit the period, then enter the decimals. And feedback that I got was, hey, why don't you go ahead and just make it so it's automatically 2 places? So you can see I put that in here, right? So I did. I took the input, and then there we go, right? Added to use currency. That's the notes from Lovable, so you can see it's a dev bot. But the idea is just this whole thing is iterative by nature, and the closed testing, I found it to be very annoying at first, and I found it to be another blocker. But in hindsight, now that I'm through the testing, I just finished my 14 days. I think I'm on day 15 technically. Now that it's done, I can say it was actually immensely helpful, and it made people use the app, right, for lack of a better term. So I totally get why Google Play does it, and I've changed my opinion. So with that said, we'll see what happens and how production comes around. All right. We'll see you at the next one.